time. So what even is time? I mean, some say, especially in the fields of physics and science, that time is a dimension, just like the three dimensions that we're all very familiar with. You know, you can go in X, Y, and Z directions. But that basically leads to the philosophical idea of eternalism. And eternalism is the philosophical idea of time, that the past, the present, and the future all exist and are real. And well, that would make sense if time is simply a dimension, because time would be just like in physics we learn, connected to space, and so it would exist in a sense constantly and it wouldn't change. But there's in a sense a problem that we have with this idea of eternalism. Well, which once again is the idea that the past and the future and everything exists, and well, everything is equally real. Is that, well, usually when we think of things that are real and exist, like the air around us or even gravity, we can either influence them or at least experience them in some way or observe them. But we cannot observe the past or influence it in any way, nor can we necessarily observe the future nor influence it in any way. And so, in a sense, this eternalist view that the past, the present, and the future all exist is a bit weird. I mean, surely if the future, for example, exists, we should be able to influence it. And I don't mean influence it in the sense that, well, we can do things now in the present that then have consequences in the future. But we should be able to go into the future and in some way influence things. All the same with the past. Why can't we go in the past and change that one rock that you almost stumbled and fell on? Just go and move it around a bit so that in the past when you walk through that path you don't stumble on that rock. But we can't do that. Nor can we even experience the future, nor the past. So even though there's things like gravity which we cannot in a sense influence because gravity is a constant, then even in that scenario we can still experience gravity. We can still observe gravity. And so it would be weird that we would call the future and the past a real thing even though we cannot even observe or experience them. And so there is another view in philosophy of time, and that view is presentism. Basically, it's the opposite. Only the present moment in time exists. There is no future, nor is there any past. And so the past does not exist, nor does the future, and only the current moment in time exists. But this view also has some problems, especially its compatibility with morality. I mean, think about it. It would be quite weird to judge people based on actions that we just kind of made up. You see, if there is no past, then every crime doesn't exist. So, for example, a person who commits a crime, the moment that crime stopped happening, it doesn't exist anymore. It's in the past, and the past does not exist. So we will be judging people based upon actions that don't exist, that didn't happen, because the past doesn't exist. And we just kind of made up this weird concept of the past and are saying, in our imagination you are a criminal, and therefore you are, even though the past doesn't exist. And so both of these views in some sense have a problem. Of course there are people who say, well, we can fix these problems, and sure we can in many ways. For example, one fix to the problem with presentism is God. That yes, only the present moment in time exists for us, but because God is outside of time, at least in our concept of time, He can observe all moments of time. And because He can observe all moments of time, we can judge people based upon actions that they've done in the past. And so the past exists, not necessarily to us, but at least to God. And that is, in a sense, the reason why we can have a moral standard and we can do things like judge people based on their actions even after the action has ended. And so God could be a way to fix presentism's problem with morality. Now, of course, presentism in itself, you could just say that there is no morality. That's a bit weird of a position to say. I mean, most people don't live their lives, and you probably cannot live your life out in the way where you just act like the past doesn't exist. I mean, imagine you have a conversation with someone, and the moment the conversation stops, you just walk away like you never even met the person or you never talked to them, and you just magically know their name, yet you never talked to them because the past doesn't exist. Yet somehow you have knowledge of things in the past. And that's another reason why many people criticize presentism. We can have knowledge of the past that is accurate in the current world, even though the past doesn't exist. I mean, think about that. Once again, if you have a conversation with someone new and you learn their name will be a thing that is absolutely a correct part of information, even in the current moment, even though you got that information in the past. And if the past doesn't exist in any way, then surely that information shouldn't exist, because the moment where you learn that person's name should have never existed, because the past doesn't exist, only the present time exists. Now, of course, many people who support the presentism view say that, of course, the past can, in a sense, exist within our memories, and in that way we can access the past in some way, but the past doesn't actually exist. It exists only in our memories, and because it exists only in our memories, it's not actually real in the same way that we would consider the current moment of time real, but it still existed when it existed, even though it doesn't exist. And well, time overall is just a weird concept now, isn't it? And there's a reason why it's probably gonna be talked about in philosophy for a very long time. There's a lot of different views, and all of them seem to be either counterintuitive or just in some way lack something. And so time is just a weird concept that I don't know if humans will ever understand fully and can even conceive in its reality. But hey, there's a third view that some people hold, which is combining the two in some senses. And so there's people who are, in a sense, eternalists that say, well, yeah, the past and the present moment exist, but the future doesn't. And so they're basically saying that the reason we cannot influence or experience the future is because the future doesn't exist, but the past and the present exist. And so the past exists and it's gonna exist forever, and the present moment, of course, exists, but the future doesn't exist yet. And this is a fairly popular view, that the past and the present exist, but the future doesn't exist until it's, in a sense, lived out. And only then does it come into existence. And well, I would like to hear what you think about time and what views you have, because I certainly do not have a very strong view on what the actual concept of time is, and well, what is the correct view. And it's gonna be something that's probably gonna be debated for a long time in the future as well. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something new and have a great day.